In 1985, at Badgaon, 17 kilometers away from Agra, Toran Singh alias Titu started speaking clearly even before he turned 2. Hearing your child start to speak is a source of joy for every parent, but in Titu's case, this quality became more of a concern than a joy for his parents. When Titu turned 2, he started saying strange things. He'd tell his father to take care of his wife and children because he was getting food here, but he was worried about them. When Titu's mother asked who he was talking about, he replied that he was talking about his real family, who were in Agra. He would repeatedly tell his parents that they weren't his real parents and that his real parents were in Agra. He'd suddenly start crying. He'd tell his mother that he had just arrived and wanted to go to his real home because he missed it very much. Initially, everyone dismissed it as a child's imagination, which is what anyone would do. 3 years passed in 1988. The things and actions of 5-year-old Titu began to deeply worry his parents. One day, Titu said his real name was Suresh Verma and he had 2 sons, Romu and Sommu, with his wife, Umma. He said he had a bungalow in Agra and a shop called Suresh Radios in Sadar Bazaar. And that's not all. He also described how he was shot in the head by 2 men while returning home in his car in the evening, which caused his death on the spot. He also described how he was cremated. The family had been hearing his nonsensical talk for 3 years, but this was the first time he'd said something like this. They set me on fire at the cremation ground and then threw me into the Yamuna after putting out the fire with water, said Titu, just a 5-year-old toddler. What would you think if a 5-year-old started talking about having a wife and children and described how he died in a past life? This news spread across the village and everyone came to a single conclusion. Titu was possessed by a ghost. The ghost theory is always the first to appear in our country's villages, and the same happened in Titu's case. Titu's nature had become quite different from other children his age. Even though he was only 5, his language, tone, gestures, and way of speaking were like an adult's. He started making fun of his parents' poverty. He'd tell his mother that his wife didn't wear torn and old saris like hers. "Mommy," said Titu, "my wife wears saris worth 2,000. You, with your dirty clothes, don't go outside." He also said he couldn't live in this dirty house and was going to live in his bungalow. Saying this, he would take out a suitcase and pack his clothes, just like a grown-up. He'd take out a small suitcase, fill his small clothes in it, and immediately say he's leaving. When his family would scold and stop him, he would threaten to run away from home. He wasn't willing to travel on foot or by bus, saying he was only used to traveling in his car. Titu was the youngest of 6 siblings. This behavior of his had become a huge problem for his parents. To quote Titu's father, he doesn't consider his mother, his father a father, or his brothers. He is always insisting that he is just passing his days here with us. So, they asked their eldest son, Ashok, to find out the truth behind all this. Where did all this information come from? Was it Titu's imagination, or was someone teaching him all this? To verify the truth in all this, Titu's brother Ashok, along with a friend, left the village for Sadar Bazaar in Agra because Titu often said that he had a shop there called Suresh Radios. Ashok and his friend searched for a shop with that name but couldn't find one. As they were about to give up, Ashok's eyes caught a board, Suresh Radios. The very name Titu kept mentioning. Ashok was stunned. Could all the other things Titu said also be true? Was Titu the reincarnation of Suresh? Or was this just a coincidence? The past life, 1983, Agra. Suresh was a businessman from Agra who owned an electronics shop called Suresh Radios in Sadar Bazaar. Suresh had a bungalow in Agra where he lived with his wife Uma, two children, his parents, and brothers. August 28, 1983, 4 months before Titu's birth. In the evening, Suresh was returning home in his white Fiat car. Two criminals were already lying in wait. Suresh stopped his car in front of his house gate and honked. At that moment, the two criminals fired at him. By the time his family members heard the gunshots and ran out, Suresh was dead. The bullet had hit the right side of his temple. Both criminals fled the scene. Since this was 1983, there weren't as many people as there are today, and the population wasn't as high. Moreover, the incident happened in the evening, so no witness came forward who had seen either of the criminals. Consequently, with no one convicted, the police closed the case. Suresh was gone. The responsibility of raising two children and taking care of the elderly parents and the household now fell on his wife, Uma. So Uma started managing the shop in Suresh's place. Now let's fast forward 5 years to 1988, to the same day when Titu's brother Ashok was standing in front of that very shop. Astonished, Ashok goes inside the shop where he meets a lady. He finds out she is Suresh's wife, Uma. Ashok tells her he wants to meet Suresh, to which Uma narrates the entire story. Ashok's world came crashing down because everything Uma described was what Titu used to say. His wife's name, the children, the name of the shop, the cause of death, everything was exactly the same. Sometimes the truth is so overwhelming that it's hard to digest. Meanwhile, Suresh's wife, Uma, asked Ashok who he was and what he wanted with Suresh. Now, it was Uma's turn to be shocked. Ashok told her he lived in Badgaon, 17 kilometers away from Agra. He started explaining the entire reason for his visit in detail. It's not easy to believe such things, and Uma felt the same. Uma said it was possible that Titu had read all this in the newspaper as it was a big case at that time. To this, Ashok replied that Titu had been talking about it since an age when children can't even speak properly. This was a strange situation for Uma. On one hand, she was curious, while on the other, she was confused by the numerous questions rising in her mind. Uma told the whole story to her in-laws, Suresh's parents. They were also shocked but happy thinking their son had come back. To further confirm the truth, Ashok asked Suresh's family to come to his house in Badgaon. Ashok suggested they go there unannounced to see if Titu would recognize them and if they could ask him some questions. With a mix of nervousness, anxiety and curiosity, Suresh's family left with Ashok to meet Titu, the boy in whom they hoped to see their Suresh again. At that time, Titu was having his meal, but as soon as he saw Suresh's family standing at the door, he ran toward them and hugged everyone. He excitedly started shouting, "Look, my mom and dad have come." He called his own parents and pointed to Suresh's parents, calling them his real parents. But as soon as his eyes fell on Uma, he became shy. A 5-year-old child suddenly started acting like an adult male. He gestured for Uma to sit next to him and began asking about the well-being of the children. Titu talked to Uma about some things related to the Dolpur fair. Upon hearing this, Uma was amazed because those things were only known to Suresh and Uma. After the meeting, as they were about to leave, Titu saw a Maruti car outside, the one Suresh's family had arrived in. Seeing the car, he asked, "Where is my Fiat car?" He then learned that the family had sold the car after Suresh's death. Titu got into the car with style, turned on the music system himself, and with the help of Suresh's brother, even drove the car for a short distance. What's surprising is that Titu had never seen a car before, and there weren't many vehicles at that time. But watching him, it seemed as if none of this was new to him. Titu thought he would now go to Agra with them. But as soon as he realized they weren't taking him along, he became furious. He started yelling at his mother and fighting with his father. He ran and hugged Suresh's father, Chanda Singh, because he was his true father in his heart. Then, they lovingly explained it to him and promised they would visit him soon. It was then decided that Titu would be brought to Agra one day to confirm his past life memories. Titu not only identified his past life parents as he had claimed, but also disclosed personal conversations with his wife. This largely eliminated the doubt that he had read all this information somewhere. However, on the other hand, it increased the worry of Titu's parents even more. What could be worse for parents than their child considering someone else to be their mother and father? They were struggling with mixed feelings, and questions arose in their minds. Based on the advice of reincarnation researcher Dr. Ian Stevenson, his colleague Dr. Antonia Mills began studying the case of a 5-year-old boy named Titu. Titu displayed the same aggressive nature as Suresh Verma, a man murdered in 1983. Titu claimed to remember his past life as Suresh and identified one of Suresh's killers, a fellow businessman. The Agra police took his statement seriously, arrested the man, and secured a confession, reopening the murder case. In court, the most compelling evidence was the birthmarks on Titu's head, which matched the entry and exit wounds of Suresh's fatal gunshot. The court accepted the reincarnation claim along with Dr. Mills's research and convicted the killers. This landmark, controversial judgment marked the first time a reincarnation case was successfully used in a court of law. Now, a final big question. Did Titu go to live with his past life parents, or did he consider his current parents as his own? Although Suresh had returned in the form of Titu, he wasn't Suresh. While the soul was the same, the body was that of a child. For Uma, he was no longer her husband, nor was he a father to her children. Suresh's father also knew that if they increased their closeness with Titu, Titu's parents would lose their son while they were still alive, and they already knew the pain of losing a son. Both families returned to their own lives. Titu also lived his childhood with dual memories and studied in his village. Today, Titu Singh, whose real name is Toran Singh, is an assistant professor at BHU, and he still remembers everything. He often visits his past family in Agra. Today he believes we can't live a double life. What's past is past, and what remains is our present. This unique case of reincarnation teaches us that life is not a straight line but a circle where the beginning and end meet at one point.